Chapter 1: The Shadowed Origins of the Druchii. 10th day of the Hexenstag, Imperial year 2523. Location: Altdorf. The Empire. I have embarked on a journey most perilous, though I wield no blade, nor ride into battle clad in steel. My quest is one of knowledge, and yet I suspect it may prove as deadly as any campaign. For the Druchii, those whom we in the Empire refer to as the Dark Elves, are a people of such malignancy that even the study of their ways casts a shadow upon the soul. As I ink these words, I feel the weight of centuries of malice pressing upon me, threatening to darken my reason. But I press on, for the Empire must understand its enemies, even those who dwell in shadow. The origins of the Dark Elves are entwined with a tale of betrayal, perhaps the most catastrophic betrayal in the history of all elfkind. The Aesir, those elegant and refined High Elves of Ulthuan, were once unified with the Druchii. In the ancient days before the Sundering, they were one people, the children of the Phoenix King, as proud and radiant as the sun upon their golden shores. But as it so often does, ambition fractured them. And in that fracture, hatred took root, giving birth to the Druchii, a people consumed by darkness. At the center of this schism is a name that echoes through the annals of both Aesir and Druchii history: Malekith. Known to us now as the Witch King, Malekith was once the favored son of Anarion, the first Phoenix King, and might well have ascended to that same throne were it not for his hubris. The details, as preserved in the scrolls of the Aesir, are predictable, self-serving, no doubt, but consistent in one regard: Malekith believed he was destined to rule. His claim was not without merit, for he had served Ulthuan faithfully as a warrior and diplomat, standing as a bulwark against the tides of chaos that threatened the world in that distant age. But power, I have found, often corrupts those who seek it most fervently. The turning point, the event that would forever sunder the unity of elfkind, came when Malekith attempted to claim the Phoenix throne. The rulers of the elven kingdoms convened, and the court ultimately rejected his claim, citing his lust for power and his closeness to dark forces. Malekith, outraged and embittered, sought to seize what he felt was rightfully his. He ventured to the sacred flame of Azurion, the fire through which every Phoenix King must pass, but the flames rejected him. Mortally wounded by the flame, he fled, his body consumed by agony, yet his spirit unbroken. And here, the darkest part of the tale begins. It is said that Malekith's mother, Morathi, a sorceress of unmatched cunning and guile, nursed him back to health, weaving her dark arts into his wounds. When he emerged from the brink of death, he was no longer the proud prince of Ulthuan. He was something else entirely: the Witch King, a being forged of bitterness, hatred, and vengeance. With Morathi at his side, he led those loyal to him in open rebellion against the Phoenix King and the Aesir, thus igniting the civil war known as the Sundering. The Sundering was not merely a conflict of swords and spells, it was a war that split the very earth itself. The magic unleashed in that war tore Ulthuan apart, sinking entire lands beneath the waves. Brother fought against brother, sister against sister, as the once unified elven race was cleaved in two. The Druchii, as they came to be known, were driven from Ulthuan, banished to the frozen wastes of Naggaroth, where they would begin their bitter exile. It is tempting to paint the Druchii as mere victims of circumstance, driven to their evil ways by rejection and banishment. Yet, as I have uncovered through my studies, there is something far more insidious at play. The Druchii are not merely twisted versions of their high elf kin. They are a people who have embraced cruelty, who worship the darker aspects of existence. This is no longer a tale of two peoples divided by a political schism. It is a saga of a people who have willingly cast aside the light and chosen to walk the path of shadow and blood. Even in their earliest days, the Druchii showed a remarkable proclivity for cruelty. Their new homeland, Naggaroth, is a land of jagged mountains, frozen tundras, and blackened shores, a reflection of their bitter souls. Here, under the rule of Malekith and Morathi, They forged a society steeped in treachery, bloodlust, and conquest. Unlike the Asur, who cling to ideals of nobility and justice however self-righteous they may be, the Druchii see these values as weakness. In Naggaroth, strength is measured by one's capacity to dominate, to manipulate, and to kill. The more I delve into their history, the more I realize that the Druchii are defined by their hatred for the Asur, hatred for weakness, and hatred for all that is good in the world. And yet there is a certain perverse admiration that grows within me as I study them. They are relentless, unyielding, and utterly uncompromising in their pursuit of power. In their eyes, only the strong deserve to survive, and they have mastered the art of survival in ways that would make even the hardiest of men tremble. The origins of the Druchii are not merely a matter of historical curiosity. They are a lesson in the consequences of unchecked ambition, of what happens when pride is allowed to fester into hatred. As I write this, I cannot help but wonder if such darkness lies within all sentient beings, waiting only for the right conditions to surface. But for now I set aside these musings. The Druchii's origins are but the beginning of their tale, a tale that grows darker still as they rise from the ashes of their defeat, their gaze forever fixed upon their enemies in Ulthuan and beyond. Chapter 2. The Society of Pain and Power. 14th day of the Hexenstag, Imperial year 2523. Location, Altdorf, the Empire. The deeper I delve into the history and culture of the Druchii, the more unsettling my findings become. If their origins were forged in fire and blood during the Sundering, then their society has been shaped by an even darker crucible, one of cruelty, domination, and perpetual treachery. The Druchii do not merely survive, they thrive in an environment where pain and power are intertwined. To rule in Naggaroth is not merely to command, it is to conquer both your enemies and those who might once have called you ally. At the pinnacle of this web of treachery stands Malekith, the Witch King of Naggaroth. His rule is absolute, but not without constant challenge. His throne, though iron, is never secure, for within his own court, betrayal festers like an open wound. And yet, despite these threats, or perhaps because of them, Malekith has reigned for millennia, an immortal tyrant whose strength lies as much in his cruelty as it does in his cunning. To study him is to witness the embodiment of the Druchii's relentless pursuit of dominance. Malekith's mastery of his people stems not merely from fear, but from his ability to manipulate every thread of power within his realm. His control over the Druchii nobility is ironclad, not through overt tyranny, but through a careful balance of fear, reward, and the ever-present threat of death. He allows his nobles to plot, to scheme, and even to challenge his authority so long as they fail. For those who succeed in undermining their rivals rise in his favor, while those who fail fall beneath his blade. In this way, Malekith ensures that only the strongest and most ruthless stand at his side, while the weak perish in the shadows. Yet the Witch King is not alone in his rule. Morathi, his mother, wields her own unique brand of influence over Naggaroth. Whereas Malekith's power lies in his military and political might, Morathi's is far more insidious. She is the matriarch of the Cult of Pleasure, a sect dedicated to the darkest desires and magics. It is whispered that Morathi's influence over her son is as vast as his control over the Druchii, that she is the whisper in his ear, the venom in his soul. Whether these rumors hold truth is impossible to know for certain. For in the land of the Druchii, the line between truth and deception is blurred beyond recognition. What is certain, however, is that the cult of Cain, the Druchii's brutal religion, plays a central role in their society. Cain, the lord of murder, is worshipped with a fervor that both terrifies and fascinates me. Unlike the gods of the Empire, who offer protection, healing, or wisdom, Cain demands blood and pain. His followers, particularly the witch elves, are consumed by an all-encompassing bloodlust. They believe that through murder, they honor their god, and that every life they take is a sacrifice upon his dark altar. The witch elves, clad in blood-stained armor and bearing wicked blades, are the heart of Cain's cult. They revel in death, dancing through battle with a grace and savagery that is unnerving to behold. To them there is no greater joy than the slaughter of the weak, the innocent, and the unworthy. I have read reports of their rites, ceremonies held beneath the blood moon, where captives are torn apart in gruesome rituals. their screams believed to echo the will of Cain himself. It is a disturbing parallel to the more solemn sacrifices of the old world. But here, death is a celebration, not a sorrowful necessity. Beyond the cults of Cain and pleasure, Naggaroth is a land governed by noble houses, each vying for power within Malekith's grand scheme. These houses are not unlike the great families of the Empire of Britannia, yet the manner in which they rise and fall is uniquely Druchii. There are no alliances in Naggaroth that are not made to be broken, no bonds of blood that are not severed when convenient. A noble family standing is built upon deceit, assassination, and a cold calculation that only the Druchii could perfect. Among the most powerful houses are the House of Helbron, led by the Hag Queen of Harganeth, and the House of Gron, Morathi's own stronghold of sorcery. Each house has its own methods of securing power, whether through mastery of martial prowess, as in Harganeth, or through dark magic, as in Grond. Yet all are united in one purpose, to outlast and destroy their rivals. The politics of Naggaroth are a constant game of survival, and to lose this game is to meet a swift, and often gruesome, end. The noble houses, while fiercely independent, are kept in line by Malekith's iron hand. The Witch King encourages their rivalries, knowing full well that such competition keeps the strong in power, and the weak from challenging him. It is said that in Naggaroth, the rise to power is paved with the corpses of one's enemies, and often one's friends as well. I have found tales of entire families purged in the night, their estates claimed by the very allies who once professed loyalty. It is a society where trust is a weakness and betrayal is the highest form of strategy. And yet, for all their cruelty and treachery, the Druchii are not a people without order. Their society functions like a finely tuned machine, each cog turning in its own place, ever sharpening the blade of Naggaroth's military and political might. The weak perish quickly, while the strong grow ever more ruthless. It is a system that rewards ambition, but punishes failure without mercy. In my studies, I have come to the unsettling conclusion that the Druchii society, as twisted as it may be, is also a reflection of their philosophy. To them, strength is the ultimate virtue, and any means by which one achieves it is justified. They believe that power is not only a right, but a responsibility, that those who are strong must rule, and those who are weak must either serve or die. There is no room for compassion, no room for mercy in the harsh and unforgiving world of the Druchii. As I write these words, I cannot help but wonder what drives a people to embrace such a philosophy. Is it their exile from Ulthuan, the centuries of bitter hatred that have festered within their hearts? Or is it something more intrinsic, something born of their very nature? Perhaps it is a combination of all these things, for the Druchii are not simply twisted reflections of their high elf kin. They are something far more malevolent. In the society of the Druchii, pain and power are inextricably linked. To rule, one must inflict pain, both upon one's enemies and one's allies. To rise, one must seize power through any means necessary. It is a brutal existence, and yet one that has endured for millennia under the watchful eyes of Malekith and Morathi. I find myself both repelled and fascinated by these dark truths. The Druchii have built a society that thrives on suffering, a kingdom where cruelty is rewarded and weakness is punished. And yet, for all their wickedness, they have achieved a form of order that even the Empire could learn from, if it dared to tread such a perilous path. Chapter 3. Warriors of Shadow and Terror. 18th day of the Hexenstag, Imperial year 2523. Location, Altdorf, the Empire. If the heart of Druchii society is forged in pain and power, then its claws, its very lifeblood, are manifested in the ways of war. I have pored over countless accounts of dark elf raids, battles and skirmishes, and the consistent theme is clear where the Druchii terror follows. Their approach to warfare is not merely one of conquest, but of calculated, orchestrated horror. It is a finely tuned art of psychological domination, where their enemies are not only defeated, but utterly broken, physically, mentally, and spiritually. The foundation of Druchii warfare lies in speed and surprise. Unlike the brute force approach favored by many in the old world, the Druchii strike from the shadows with devastating precision. Their mastery of guerrilla tactics is unparalleled. They do not march into battle in grand legions like the Empire or the Dwarfs. Instead, they slip silently through the darkness, their movements unseen, until it is too late. By the time their enemies realize they are under attack, they are already doomed. Perhaps the most iconic symbol of their military prowess is the Black Ark, those vast, floating fortresses that prowl the seas like malevolent leviathans. The sheer scale of these creations, these dark monuments of stone and sorcery, cannot be overstated. I have heard the testimony of sailors who have laid eyes upon them and lived to tell the tale. They describe the Black Arks as mountains of jagged obsidian, their hulls adorned with cruel spikes and ensnared by mists of shadow. These enormous vessels serve as mobile cities capable of carrying entire armies across the seas, while raining death upon coastal towns with their catapults and sorcerous weapons. The origin of these fearsome constructs is as dark as the Druchii themselves. Raised from the ocean floor during the sundering by powerful sorcery, each Black Ark was once a fragment of the shattered lands of Ulthuan. Now, these floating monoliths serve as harbingers of death, carrying the armies of Naggaroth to distant shores where they unleash their campaigns of terror and enslavement. The mere sight of a Black Ark on the horizon is enough to strike fear into the hearts of men, for it heralds the arrival of the Druchii, swift, merciless, and unstoppable. Once the Black Ark's anchors drop and its army disembarks, the terror truly begins. The Dark Elf military is a finely honed instrument of death, crafted not for protracted warfare, but for swift, decisive action. The Druchii employ a variety of units, each specializing in a particular form of terror. The backbone of their army is made up of the Dreadspears, disciplined warriors clad in dark armor, their faces hidden behind menacing helms. These soldiers are as ruthless as they are efficient, moving in tight, well-drilled formations. And they strike with spears and shields, but their real weapon is the fear they instill, the knowledge that failure will result in death, either at the hands of the enemy or their own commanders, drives them to fight with a cold, detached brutality. Then, there are the Dark Riders, swift cavalry who excel at harrying their foes with hit-and-run tactics. They ride ahead of the main force, picking off scouts, disrupting supply lines, and spreading panic through the enemy ranks. These riders are experts in asymmetrical warfare, using their mobility to strike at their opponent's weakest points before disappearing into the night. Many an Imperial patrol has vanished without a trace, leaving behind only the hoofprints of the Dark Riders to mark their passing. But perhaps the most fearsome of all are the executioners of Harganeth, the elite warriors trained in the City of Death itself. These soldiers wield massive drakes, great two-handed blades designed to decapitate their enemies with a single stroke. Their entire existence is devoted to Cain, the god of murder, and they revel in the carnage of battle. When the executioners are unleashed, it is a clear signal that no mercy will be given, and none will be asked. Alongside these warriors, the Druchii command an array of terrifying monstrous creatures, most notably the War Hydra, a multi-headed beast of unparalleled savagery. These massive reptiles are driven into battle by their handlers, their multiple heads spewing fire and venom upon their enemies. Few sights are as horrifying as a War Hydra tearing through ranks of soldiers, its jaws snapping through armor as though it were paper. I have found accounts of entire Imperial companies fleeing at the mere sight of one, their morale shattered before a single blow was struck. However, it is not brute strength alone that defines the Druchii's approach to war. Their true advantage lies in their mastery of dark sorcery. The sorceresses of the Dark Convent are among the most dangerous magic users in the world, rivaling even the most accomplished wizards of the colleges of magic. Unlike the controlled magics of the Empire, the sorcery wielded by the Druchii is wild, violent, and utterly destructive. They call upon the winds of magic not to heal or to protect, but to rend, tear, and destroy. The lore of dark magic, the favored discipline of the Druchii, is a primal force of destruction. I have read accounts of these sorceresses summoning bolts of pure darkness that tear through entire regiments, or conjuring swirling vortices of shadow that suck their enemies into oblivion. The sorceresses fight alongside their armies, casting their malevolent spells from the rear, while the warriors and beasts of Naggaroth close in for the kill. Their magic sows confusion, terror, and chaos among their enemies, softening them up for the killing blow. The Druchii are also notorious for their penchant for raiding and slaving. It is not enough for them to defeat their foes, they must humiliate and degrade them. Entire coastal cities are burned to the ground, their inhabitants captured and dragged back to Naggaroth to serve as slaves. I have heard stories from Bretonnian sailors of ships ambushed in the night, their crews hauled away in chains to work in the mines or suffer unspeakable fates in the cities of Naggaroth. To the Druchii, war is not just about victory, it is about the complete subjugation of their enemies. And I have heard whispers of raiding parties led by infamous corsair captains, sailing the seas in sleek, black-hulled ships. These corsairs, clad in their signature sea dragon cloaks, descend upon coastal settlements with terrifying speed. The survivors of such attacks are few, and those who live speak of the unspeakable horrors inflicted upon them. The Druchii do not simply kill, they revel in the suffering they cause, drawing strength from the fear and agony of their victims. It is clear to me that the Druchii do not view warfare as a necessary evil, as we do in the Empire. To them, it is an art form, a method by which they assert their superiority over all others. Every battle, every raid, is an opportunity to prove their strength, to indulge their cruelty, and to expand their ever-growing empire of terror. For the Druchii, war is not just a means to an end, it is an end in itself, a perpetual state of violence that defines their existence. In conclusion, the warfare of the Druchii is a grim reflection of their society as a whole, calculated, cruel, and utterly without mercy. Whether striking from the shadows with their elite warriors or raining destruction from the decks of their black arcs, the Druchii wage war with a singular purpose, to dominate, enslave, and destroy. They are a people who thrive on the suffering of others, and their approach to battle ensures that no enemy is left unscathed. As I close this chapter, I cannot help but wonder how long it will be before the Druchii's gaze turns once more toward our own shores. And their thirst for blood is never sated, and their hunger for conquest never ends. And the old world is not safe from their wrath, and I fear the day when the black sails of Naggaroth appear upon the horizon, heralding a new age of terror.